InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today. And today we have two guests. On my far right is Freddy Zental Weaver. Welcome, Freddy.
Hi, Jay.
And to my immediate right is Dr. Elsbeth Meuth. And Dr. Meuth, is it okay if I call you Elsbeth?
Totally.
And this is the second or third time I've interviewed. I'm really excited today because I've since you've progressed really far and evolved your practice and understand you're writing a book. You've got a DVD and, well, two DVDs and a CD, which audience is going to chance to learn about later. But just tell our audience a little bit about Elsbeth and Freddy. They are the founders and directors of TantraNova Institute in Chicago. They're internationally renowned workshop leaders, relationship and intimacy coaches, and certified Tantra yoga teachers. Over the past decade, Elsbeth and Freddy have assisted over 10,000 couples and singles rekindle and expand their intimate and love life. They are featured on the Showtime's documentary Sexual Healing and the Emmy Award-winning NBC show Starting Over. Well, I'm sure our audience is going to want to know, what is Tantra?
Well, Tantra is a practice of learning how to draw on life force or sexual energy as a way to become more connected with our intimate selves and our spiritual selves, and connecting that with our happiness and our creativity.
And where did the Tantra originate?
Well, there are two versions. There's actually several versions now, but originally it started in the East, in India, and then also in China. China's Tao approach to sexual energy, and then the East Indian approach is more of a spiritual as opposed to energetic and health.
Okay. And how is TantraNova different from traditional Tantra? You want to take that question, Elsbeth?
Yes, I'd love to. So we in TantraNova, as the name said, Tantra and Nova, like the new Tantra,
okay.
We really combine the wisdoms of the East, both from East India and China, with the knowledge and technologies of the West. Mm-hmm. So we are mixing Tantra and Taoism with, generative language, what we know about creating our life, our reality through language, bringing forth creative self-discovery that Freddy brought from his father's work. And so we are blending these two.
Okay, now you mentioned, let's see if I recall correctly, the Eastern wisdom with Western technology. You want to just give us a few drops of the Eastern wisdom and a little bit of the Western technology?
Sure. Well, some of the Eastern approaches to Tantra would be more of connecting with the breath and meditation. So Tantra was really one of the original yogas of the energetic body as opposed to Hatha yoga of the physical body. So really what they discovered early on was to start looking at the outside world from the inside, that we're actually creating our experience from the inside, our interpretation of our experience. So the Eastern approaches to Tantra were really about creating a way to be more in touch and more actualized with your own happiness and your joy.
Okay. And then where does the Western technology fit in?
So when we talk about Western technology and we talk about generative language and creative self-discovery, so generative language has something to do with that we as human beings are linguistic in nature. You know, we have a future perspective and a past perspective, unlike animals. I mean, they cannot say to you, Jay, I'm going to meet you at the doorstep tonight at 5 o'clock. Now, the dog may sit there when you come, but that's more part of the nervous system, not of a cognitive way of moving in the world. So if that is so, then we can bring through the way we speak, and particularly in relationship, you know, because that is the area that we are most concerned with here. How can we create love and intimacy ongoingly, and how do we bring that forth? How do we speak to each other? How do we commit each other? And all of that, that is what we call generative language. And creative self-discovery has to do with that, you know, serendipitous, artistic way of being. That doesn't mean that we are an artist, but that music, movement, dance, visual arts, you know, and all of it we use to some extent in our workshops, not for the sake now of becoming a performer or an artist, but for the sake of delving into our creative way of being.
And is it through our creativity that we advance ourselves and our relationships?
Well, actually, I would like to say that, you know, the creative process, or being in our creative self, is really, I really see that as when we are most in touch with this divine intelligence that we are a part of, or a spark of. It's like if you think of our life force energy or sexual energy as creative and pleasurable, right? I mean, without it, we wouldn't be here. And that creativity and pleasure show up all over in our lives. I mean, the work we do, the people we're around, where we live. It's like the same things happen chemically when we are in a creative process, like writing something that's creative, or creating a new piece of equipment, or teaching someone something new in a new way. Happen chemically that happen when we're in our life force of sexual energy. Oxytocin is released, endorphins are enhanced, serotonin is released. All these same things, these chemicals change. So what happens with the work that we do is we approach it in a way that people start to have show up more creativity and pleasure in other areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex in the simple process of living itself. Okay.
So on a very practical, a couple seeks your counseling, and when you counsel, do you counsel together? Do you work together with the couples?
So when we work with the couple, we always work together, because we like to have the feminine and masculine listening and speaking be present, and so that the couple gets gotten, you know, wherever they are at. And in workshops where we have men and women, we always work together. We have also workshops where Freddy works just with men, or I just work with women. So that exists too. When a couple comes to us, or when we teach a workshop, it's like the principle is the same. For one thing, one of the core principles that we work with, and that comes from the tantric practice and the Taoist practice, is to access our life force energy in a conscious way. We all, of course, are familiar with life force energy, particularly when it shows up in an aroused way, because that is biological. You know, this is for procreation. It just kicks in, so we don't have to be conscious about it. However, the way we come to it is that we can bring awareness to our most precious energy, that is our life force. Without it, we wouldn't be alive. And it is sexual in nature. Now, how we use the word sexual is not just like aroused energy, more like a gradation from very subtle, like life force energy that runs through me, runs through you all the time, to a highly aroused state. So that's all included in when we call it sexual energy. And that energy, as Freddy mentioned a little earlier, is creative and pleasurable. You know, it just comes with these ingredients. So if we can teach people, and of course that applies to us too, to me and to Freddy and to our relationship, if we can tap into that energy consciously, we can actually use that energy to our advantage, both oneself and then, of course, in relationship.
Now, are there certain exercises you do to tap into that energy?
Absolutely. There are three primary distinctions that we teach, and one is the breath. So the belly breath is really key. We breathe typically sympathetically. The body just automatically breathes. Parasympathetic breathing is when we bring our breath consciously into our diaphragm, which extends our belly. Now, we have to think to do that. We have to actually put some attention on that. And for most of us, we can do it for about 3 breaths before our mind gets into a story about something. So in the process of learning to do and put your mind on that, we start to develop what we call a witness or an observer mind to the thinking that we do. Because typically that thinking is the thing that starts us off on a whatever, the feeling or emotion or shifting something in the world. The other distinction is working with life force energy. That's key. That's in its subtle stage or an aroused stage. Again, because when we're in that energy, whether you're doing our workshop or not, we're more loving, open, vulnerable, receptive. Again, chemicals change. We are different people. So those are a couple of the primary distinctions, and I think there's...
No, 3. Actually, I mean, you mentioned them all. Yeah. One is the conscious breath, like in that is being developed through the belly breath. The other one, you just folded them in a little bit together, is the meditative mind, which we call the observer state of mind, where we can witness our feelings and our sensations versus just being our sensations. Being my anger, I have no power if I'm just being my anger. However, if I can watch my anger, that doesn't mean that I don't have my anger, but it doesn't have me any longer. So in that sense also, we want to bring that witness state of mind to our sexual self. And the third one is that we, develop a sense of energy that runs through us because it's something we are not being taught about in school or college.
Now, once a person develops awareness of his or her energy, does that lead to greater awareness of the partner's energy? Is that the goal?
Totally.
Well, absolutely. Once you tap into your own awareness, you can more easily connect with another person. Because it's an interesting time in history when science is saying that we're connected. Science and spirituality are saying the same thing, that we are connected. And it's interesting because when I'm connected with myself, I can more easily connect with another person. If I'm in a very calm state and they may be in an upset state, say in our relationship, I can more easily listen and they can more easily feel gotten. And then we can come to some, whatever it might be, solution around whatever it might be. There's a very practical application to all of this that we're doing, and it's not about necessarily having better lovemaking in the bedroom or being a guru on a mountaintop. There's a very practical application to just really tapping into how we can work with what this is about life in terms of our emotions and the ups and downs and our dreams, and how do we actually tap into this and become more fulfilled, creative, and happy in this time that we have. So, but it's interesting, we have a prop that we use to illustrate this connectedness that we talked about. It's called an energy ball, and it looks like this. It really illustrates this connectedness. So when I complete the connection within myself, this ball lights up. When I add Elsbeth to it, the ball lights up. When I add the rest of us, and I want you, Jay, just to touch on that strip right there.
Okay.
Touch right on that strip. Sometimes it gets disconnected from.
All right.
So if you're anybody who breaks the circuit in the group.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the visual. So the disconnect, that's a visual of a physical disconnect, but emotional disconnect is when I feel alone or I'm pissed off at you and I feel no one understands me. That's the physical disconnect. Now just beneath that is this savasana or belly breath or corpse breath, or just the breath of just being mindless and watching the upset. So stuff doesn't stop happening, but it just doesn't stick around as long.
Well, I've also noticed with my life, instead of just watching the upset, just to watch life or take a time out, enjoy the good moment and soak it in.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the whole idea, is to really look at that we can actually create something that we have an intention to create, but it really requires letting go of what we know, because there's a lot of stuff that we do that we aren't even aware that we're doing that's giving us what we're getting.
Now, do you feel your study of Tantra and founding TantraNova has given you a sense of purpose as a couple, and it's made you stronger as a couple?
Yeah, Freddy Zental and I, we met 12 years ago. We both were on our respective tantric journey. Freddy grew up in a tantric household, and I had come to Tantra in a more in-depth way in my late 40s. And we both were looking for a partner who was either interested in Tantra or already practicing Tantra. And so we met on the internet, and we just hit it off. And within 2 months, we said we wanted to do something together. And so the evolution of our relationship, along with the business, it's like that's weaving in and out, in and out, I mean, it's weaving together. And it's really, we have actually evolved as human beings through creating this body of work and also making, a difference with others and couples and singles who are coming to us.
Now, you've also relationship has given birth to videos and CDs. Let's see, the discovery of sexual, spiritual connection. So what am I holding up here?
Yeah. So Jay, this is actually the advanced DVD,
okay,
where we demonstrate what we call the healing rituals. And the rituals have something to do with, for the woman, to reconnect with her wonderful feminine wisdom, wonderful feminine energy. For the male, the healing ritual, or that ritual, is about connecting his life force energy with his heart center. Because most men, when they want to connect, they start feeling in their sexual center. Most women, when they want to connect, they start feeling in their heart center. So we both want to connect. He's looking for this, and I'm looking for that. So we are like two passing ships in the night. So in the tantric practice, and what is being cultivated in these rituals that the DVD is about, is that the male learns how to move up his wonderful life force energy or sexual energy into the heart. Then from the heart, he connects with my heart.
Okay, so it's a partner exercise.
It's actually,
so
yes,
it's
a partner
kind
exercise.
Kind of like the ball that you showed.
Yes.
That make the connection.
Yes.
And so is this a DVD that couples would use over and over again?
Yeah, they would learn from the DVDs, and then they would do the practices over and over and over.
Okay, it's not like an aerobics video.
No. Yeah, it'd be something that you would hopefully do, like an aerobics video, over and over again. Hopefully you do an aerobics
right.
video. But you don't need the video necessarily to do it.
Once you learn the technique, you've got it. Now, is this the one before it?
Exactly. So that introduces us to what we call foundational practices and principles. That's where we work with a group of people. It's a workshop, and that is really the prerequisite to really get what we show in the more advanced DVD.
And is there anything you'd like to tell our audience that's in this DVD?
Well, we're working with a group of maybe 8 or 9 couples, and we're doing what we would do in what we call our one-day beginner workshop. We have several workshops. We have 3-day workshops, 5-day workshops, women's workshops, men's workshops, with lots of workshops. But this is a beginner workshop, and it introduces the foundational practices to start to develop a foundation to be able to work with this life force energy in this conscious way that we're talking about. So, life force energy is something that comes to us naturally. But, so to procreate with it is God-given. It's, automatic. To recreate with it is something we've been able to do with the development of contraceptives over the last 100 years. What we're talking about here is co-creating with this energy in a conscious way. So those are practices.
Now, if a couple say, okay, I'm going to be like Freddy and Elsbeth, how much time per day would they have to devote to their tantric practice? I know it can vary from day to day, but approximately how much time?
Oh, it can range from 5 minutes to half an hour. So there is the practice for the individual, because unless I cultivate and connect with my energy, I cannot really connect with Freddy Zental's energy. Because if I'm like this, that is how I connect with him. If I'm like this, that is how I connect with him then. So I want to cultivate myself, my connection with myself, and then we want to cultivate together. So there is, for example, in this level 1 DVD, a practice for the couple that is, you know, I mean, everybody's familiar with spooning, you know. However, when we spoon, and we can do this, you know, when we wake up in the morning or when we go, before we go to sleep at night, it takes from 2 to 5 minutes, not a long time. So we spoon, one is in the front, the other one is in the back. We hold each other on each of, go through different energy centers. We particularly like to connect with the heart, because that is like where we, you know, really drop into our love energy. And then what we add is the breath. So
synchronized breathing in and out together, or alternate breathing. One breathes in, the other breathes out.
And is somebody pacing? You know, like
it comes naturally.
Like on a rowboat, or like stroke, stroke, stroke.
Right,
no,
no,
not like that.
No, it's pretty naturally. Just breathe in and breathe out.
Yeah, because you feel, because we are spooning, so our bodies are close together. We feel the other. The other breathes in, I breathe in with him. Breathe out. I breathe out with him. So it's, and what it does, it gets us out of the busy mind into our heart center, into our body, and it's very effortless then to feel connected.
Well, you mentioned connecting with the heart several times. I think it's more than 50% of Americans die from a heart or brain-related disease. I'm wondering if we could lower our heart disease rate by practicing these exercises.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
there are a lot of benefits.
There's this one other one. It says foundational practices.
Yeah.
And is this a DVD, a CD?
It's a CD, and that would be something you want to do every day. So I even use this every day for my own practice. Just turn it on, listen to one track, and that really, you know, gets me ready for the day or slows me down in the middle of the day.
And how many tracks are on here?
8.
Okay.
8 tracks, and they are what we call our foundational practices.
And how many minutes approximately per track?
7 to 9.
Okay. Okay.
But you know, you say, how long does it take to do it? We've been doing this for 12 years now, and you know, we've worked with thousands of couples. And I've read somewhere that it takes about 10,000 hours to become a master at something or expert, and we've been doing it a little over 10,000 hours now. So it is interesting how stuff doesn't stop happening with us in our relationship. We just move through it a little more quickly.
Well, Freddy, it's in your genes. You mentioned earlier before the show about your father being a psychiatrist. And,
right.
And he practices the type of work and comes to your workshop. You want to add anything?
Well, you know, my beginnings were through his introduction. He, you know, when I was 15 years old, I was this kid coming into his puberty and, you know, really into my sexual energy, so he gave me a book to read. And it was by a guy by the name of Bhagwan Shree Rajneesh, who later changed his name to Osho. And I enjoyed the practices and the whole idea of learning to, you know, stave off my orgasmic energy and play with that and use that in a way that was allowing me to be a better athlete as well.
At age 15?
At age 15. And I kept doing these practices through college and kept this stuff alive in my relationships and personal relationships, and kept doing workshops and reading books. Never thought I'd teach it professionally. It was never something that I did other things. I taught school at the Unified for a few years, and then I did music professionally for a few years, and I did stand-up comedy for 4 years, and then I did the software business for like 20 years. And knowing what I knew about my own inspiration about life, I was in San Francisco and been there for 15, 20 years, and I was getting pretty tired of the program, of what I was doing. You know, and there had to be more. So I took a job with a company in Chicago, and that was 12 years ago, and I really came to Chicago to meet Elsbeth, and we met, and you know the story from there. We started this, and this is all we've been doing for the last 12 years. And we love it. It's an integration of all the things I ever loved and all the jobs I ever did. I get to teach, I love sexual energy, I get to do music, I do this one-man show and travel around the country and do it, and it's kind of demystifying love, sex, and intimacy.
Is it a comedy routine?
Well, it's not a routine, and there is comedy in it. It's like an account of my life from the age of 5 through to the present. And there's areas that are sad and areas that are funny, and they're relevant to all of us, where we first fall in love, or when we first get introduced to life force or sexual energy, and decisions in our life. And I'm singing and I'm drumming and I'm telling these stories. So it's really very interesting, yeah.
Well, do you think that opposites attract? You grew up in Germany, was it?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Do you think, like, in some ways, opposite attract, or?
One may say this.
We're about as opposite as you can get, man.
He is tall, I'm short. He is black, I'm white.
Yeah.
So
you're from another country. He's from America.
Yes, yes, and also just our approach to life. Freddy has such a serendipitous way of moving in life artistically, and fluent with
fluidity.
With fluidity, and I definitely have some of my Germanic roots still running through me.
Is that a good thing or bad, or a little both?
Actually, a good thing, because I bring the structure. I bring
the taskmaster,
and we learn from each other.
Don't say that; you get him going.
But we both do learn from each other. I mean, I learned to be a little more structured, and she learns to lighten up a little bit, and we can both come from our authentic selves, and together we're able to do what we do. Yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty fun.
And then also, just like our, here our logo, which can be interpreted as two dancers or swirls, or like the yin and the yang, you know. And so this is really how I experience my relationship with Freddy Zental. It's like this dancing together. We are always connected somehow. However, he may just go off there and I may stay here. But then, we come together again. And so that is for me also very tantric, because Tantra, one of the meaning of Tantra is like weaving, so we are weaving. And
I'm a weaver.
And
that's well, we only got 2 minutes left. I mean, before the show I said, I could easily do an hour. Now I know for sure.
Oh, it's so great seeing you again, though.
It is. Do you want to show something? I mean, in that time?
Yes, you asked us earlier, what people can learn from here, like in a very concrete way. So in addition to learning about energy and how energy runs through the body, there's a particular practice that we teach that has to do with the pelvic floor, because the pelvic floor is the seat of our life force energy, and life force energy moves up in a serpentine way, all the way up and then down again. So if I'm stuck in my pelvic floor, if the energy is stuck there, guess what? There's not much that...
to support the love.
Right. So we can activate the life force energy by squeezing and releasing the muscles.
It's called the PC muscle?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, pubococcygeus, and we recommend it for both men and women, because that's the muscle that also goes actually into vibration right before we have a climax. And can I keep going? Or
no, we're out of time. We said climax. We should just end it right there.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Freddy.
Nice, yeah.
For more information about Freddy, Dr. Elsbeth Meuth, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune. Thank you so much. It just flies by.
Yeah, you got them all in.
You
Good.
Thank you. That was an honor.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.